Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I've had a lot of people ask me, "Why haven't you done anything about Diddy here? Look, this trial's been going on for quite a while. Why don't you weigh in?" And I'm not a trial follower, and I'm not an attorney, so this really isn't my main kind of thing. But I do want to, as a profiler, look at the charges against him, the claims against him, and some of what I call the bad choices, which some people have made. What are the difference between bad choices, claims, and actual crimes? And so that's what I want to talk about here. I want to just break it down and make it very clear and simple. So let's get to it. I want to read you just the basic of what he's being charged with. The jury is being instructed. This is a RICO case. And they're being instructed about what a RICO case means. They have to believe that the defendant willfully engaged in a criminal scheme by working with others to commit the two related crimes. In the indictment, a federal grand jury charged that Combs used his, quote, employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire to commit crimes, including kidnapping, arson, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking, prostitution, and narcotics distribution. And he did all of this stuff. And he got all these people working for him, doing things for him that are criminal in order to fulfill his sexual desires. Because this guy is a kink and wouldn't even call it a kink and a half. I'll call it a kink and a dozen. I mean, that guy is kinky and is obviously, considering how many of these freak offs he had, where, let's put it this way, he was highly sexually charged in ways that probably weren't the healthiest for him and everyone else around him, but he sure enjoyed what he did. And did the other people enjoy what they did? Well, that's up for grabs. And if they didn't enjoy what they did, is that a crime? All right, so to start out with, I'm going to get to the bad choices and the claims, because this is where I think people are focused on. But first, I'm going to say what I do think he is guilty of, which has not been proven yet in a court of law, but I'll just straight up say what I think, so you know that I'm not trying to let him off the hook for his, what I do believe is criminal behavior. Looking at this list. All right. Kidnapping. I don't know that that's been proven yet. Kidnapping in this case seems to be more, it's used when somebody wishes to leave. For example, at the freak off, if one of his girlfriends, wives, whatever other people he's got involved there, decide they've had enough and they want to leave, and he doesn't let them leave, then that can be considered kidnapping. I'm not exactly sure all the ways they might be using it, but so far, personally, I haven't followed every single moment of this trial, but that's up for grabs, in my opinion, whether that is true or not. Let's see, arson. Well, there is some way to believe that he was involved in this arson when he was trying to get back at somebody he was angry with, and one of his vehicles was seen in the area, and there was some DNA on a Molotov cocktail thing, but it was female DNA. So was that somebody working on his behest? But that seems to be questionable whether they've proven that he himself was involved in the actual crime. So I'll leave that one up in the air. Bribery. Well, after he beat the living crap out of his wife, Cassie, and there was a video of it, and he paid $100,000 to a security guard to hide that video, I'm going to say that was bribery. There's no question about it. Now, as far as, by the way, the assault on his wife, that's domestic abuse, and that was not reported. He was not charged with it. Did he do it? Well, heck yeah, he did, and there is also evidence that he did. So he definitely did that. Witness tampering, I guess that could be some of that same thing. I don't know whether the witness tampering is he's paying people off to just shut up. So that would definitely be witness tampering. Forced labor, that's a little questionable. Sex trafficking. Yeah, he's been gotten on that, in my opinion, because first of all, he hired a whole lot of prostitutes, a lot of male prostitutes, to have sex with at the freak offs with his girlfriend, wife, and whomever else. And he apparently liked to watch a lot, and so he hired male escorts and prostitutes. So first of all, understand, in most places, prostitution is illegal. If it's illegal and you're participating in it as a John, you're breaking the law. The Mann Act is means that you cannot give money to transport a prostitute across state lines, which apparently he was bringing in prostitutes from other places, and therefore he'd be involved in violating the Mann Act, paying for transportation of prostitutes. And if he was paying other people, and this is where the RICO thing is coming in, if he paid other people to pay the money to bring the prostitutes or whatever, he's involving others. That's where the RICO Act comes in. The same thing, the issue about narcotics distribution. Apparently, he had a whole lot of what are considered illegal drugs. That in itself is a crime. If you distribute, even if you don't sell those drugs to somebody, so you're not a drug dealer, but if you distribute the drugs, that is a violation of the law as well. And if you get other people to distribute the drugs or to carry the drugs from one place to another to you, well, there you go. There's the RICO thing rolling again. So because he's had this lifestyle of these freak offs, which are, getting hotel rooms and bringing in prostitutes and using a lot of drugs. And there's no, as far as I have not seen evidence that he forced anybody to take those drugs. Haven't seen it yet, maybe there. So I'm just going with so far. If they take the drugs willingly, and he seems to have this appetite for going and going and going and going, he wants other people to keep going and going and going. I guess he just, he doesn't want like a quickie or 1 hour's worth of fun. He wants 12 hours, 24 hours worth of fun. And he's getting the women in there, and he's watching all the sex acts, and he's, telling them what to do. And he's, sometime videotaping, which if he's using that as blackmail, they get him on that one. So I think they've got him on enough charges. I think there's also illegal weapons. So there's enough charges against him. And if he's had this entire enterprise, people working for him who are helping him commit these crimes, then that's why they're using the RICO Act. And I think, well, if that's what he's been doing all these years, then they can get him on that. And so be it. He knew what the law is. And if he wants to break the laws all over the place and then have other people break the laws for him, and if he wants to blackmail those people into shutting up, and then he's going to get his just desserts. Okay? So that's the first part. So I do believe they're going to get him on a whole bunch of crimes. Now, the other part of this, which it's been kind of days and days and days of Cassie testifying, and now we've got Jane up there, and there was a Mia. These are fake names, which bugs the heck out of me, because my opinion is, if you're going to testify in a court of law, you're an adult, not a child. You're an adult, and you're going to testify against somebody in a court of law. You should have to use your real name. I don't understand why the judge thinks you have to protect this person from being known who they were. You're going to say he did things to you like that. Personally, I think your name should be out there. And apparently they have been kind of outed anyway. So, and I'm sure with any civil case, they'll go, oh, this is my name. Give me the 20 million, But this is where I want to talk about the issue of bad choices and claims. Let me start with claims. You can claim somebody did something to you. And I think this is one of the problems I've had with a lot of the hashtag Me Too movement and the people they've taken down with claims that do not have any proof. When you are alone with somebody and you go with them willingly to their location, you take drugs willingly, and then you end up having sex with them, and then you claim they raped you, it's a claim. If you can't prove it, didn't go to the police at the time. If you didn't go to the police at the time and have that be a charges filed against them because you had enough evidence, I'm not very fond of people coming back 10, 20 years later, making a claim, 10 years ago, he did this to me. And nobody knows if it's true or not. He said, she said, or he said, or whatever. I'm not really fond of that. I think it's a very bad precedent to set. It's been set pretty well. And it doesn't mean that the person that they're making the claim against isn't a scumbag. There's a lot of scumbags out there and they'll do scumbaggy things. But if you're participating in the behaviors and you have, the regrets the next day, didn't work out the way you wanted, that isn't necessarily that they've committed a crime. And these kind of claims happen when not just against the celebrities and so on. It also happens just against regular people. They'll make claims. There'll be, for example, a young girl teenage girl, she didn't get home on time. And then so the parents say, well, where were you? And she's like, oh, he did this to me. Because she didn't want to admit that she went to bed with a guy. There's people who want to get back at somebody. Maybe they went on a date, they had sex with them, that person was horrible, terrible lover. And they're like, oh, I can't believe I had sex with you. And they go to the police and report them as a sexual assault. Now, some of these women are high level narcissists or even psychopaths, or they love attention, and that's how they're going to get their attention. Or they know they can jump in on, especially with the Me Too thing, they can jump in on a massive civil suit where they're going to make a lot of money. And some of them just like attention. So, and people say, well, women wouldn't do that for attention. Yes, some women will. The problem with them doing this, which is where I always get very upset, is there's a difference between a person who is a true victim, a victim of true sexual assault, of rape, of brutality, which they in no way are responsible for. And when I say responsible for, let me say this. Sometimes they do make a foolish choice to go to somebody's private location, like go to some guy's hotel room that they don't know well enough to trust. And they do get raped, 100% get raped in that hotel room. And the crime did go down. They made a poor choice going there to be alone with this person, or even drinking with them and sitting on the bed with them and all that kind of, and then it all went bad. It's a true rape, but that's different than you had sex with them and afterwards you're like, man, I did it because I thought I could get a job. I wanted to get that role in the film, so I slept with that happens in Hollywood all the time. That's why they call it a casting couch. It's bad. It's horrible. Shouldn't be happening. But when people choose to actually have sex with somebody in order to get somewhere in life, that's their choice. It's a version of prostitution, except you don't get paid right up front. You just hope one day you will get paid by getting something you want. And sometimes that happens in businesses and in politics. I mean, it can happen in many, many ways. It even happens, I'll say this, it even happens with women who go on Match.com and sleep with every guy they go out with. Why? It's because they're great lovers? No, it's because they're hoping that if they have sex with them, they'll get a second date. If they get the second date, they may eventually get the payoff. They're kind of willing to prostitute themselves with no money up front, but hoping that they'll eventually get paid by ending up in a relationship, getting married or whatever. Maybe they do have to have sex with 10 different guys before one of them chooses them. That's their choice. Now, you can say it's a bad choice or a good choice, but it's their choice. And there isn't a crime being committed in those cases. It's just, I think a lot of bad behavior, but bad behavior is a personal choice. Now, in this case, we have some claims which I don't know are true or not. Women being dangled over balconies and numbers of different things. I don't know if they're true, have been proven, or this is simply a claim. Now, what I do see in a lot of the testimonies of the women is a whole lot of choices that they've made. Truly choices. And I don't know, are they bad choices if you got a whole lot of stuff out of it? Now, do you have some regrets that you had to have sex with a whole bunch of guys? I mean, but at the time you're like Cassie said, can't wait for the next freak off. What? If you're excited for the next freak off, why is that? Now, you're either lying because, well, You want to get what you can get out of this guy. This guy, you want to get what you can get out of him. Okay, that happens in marriage. People have sex with their partner sometimes in marriage, not so willingly, but they want to keep them happy, so that they get some payoff, which is they get somebody to stay with them. They get to have company, companionship. They get to go on vacation. They get a present. They get to have children with them. Whatever the reason is that they're having sex less than willingly. When I say less than willingly, I don't mean that the other person is committing a crime. They're not sexually assaulting, but they're just like not in the mood. Or, okay, I'm just going to do this sex act they want. I don't really like doing it, but makes him happy, so I'll go do it. Makes her happy, so I'll go do it. I didn't enjoy any of it, but I did it because I'm getting something out of this. And sometimes in a relationship, there is a little give and take. And there are some things people do they're not thrilled about, I mean, it's like, I really don't enjoy going to office parties. I had to do that when I was married. Go to these office parties with my husband at the time, and God, I hated them. I went because he was like, hey, my wife is supposed to come, I want to keep my job. And so I went, and I hated them. But he didn't force me. He did ask me, please go. And there was a level of, hey, if you don't go, it's going to go, that's blackmail. I'm not going to have a job. You're not going to have any money. I mean, this is the kind of thing there's a give and take in every relationship. And in a good relationship, the give and take is not unreasonable on both sides. And the people have their best friends and they go on happily in life together. And the complaints are minimum. Like, I hate picking up his underwear off the floor. Okay, you hate doing that, but geez, is that the worst you got? But in this case with these women, the worst they got was they had to have sex, not sleep with. They had to have sex with prostitutes to amuse him over and over and over again and do all the things that he wanted them to do, that he instructed them to do. And they did them. And now they're saying it was humiliating, and and she would like her. She didn't want to be humiliated in public. Well, you were willing to be humiliated every time you did that, or you really weren't humiliated. You didn't have an issue with it. Or you say you took drugs so you wouldn't feel as humiliated. Those are bad choices, but they're choices you made in order to be with him, to get his money, to get fame, to get ahead in the record industry, whatever. Now, was he using his level of power to get women who are willing to do that? Well, sure. And everybody who is in a position in life who has more power than the other person may use that power to encourage, not force, but to encourage somebody to go along with their program. A guy could be, let's say a girl's got a drug habit and she doesn't have a place to stay. And he says, you can stay in my house, but I don't want a blowjob. So she gives him a blowjob so she has a free place to stay. Did he use his power of owning a house? Well, sure he did. What about a person who's just a person who has a good job? And then he marries somebody who has a lesser job and she's got less money. He's got way more money and they got married. Well, he might use his power to say, hey, I'm making all this money. So, you need to be more cooperative. That's not a crime. It's just the power you have from what is always going to be sometimes it's pretty equal relationship, but sometimes it's simply not. And he's massively rich, massively famous, massively powerful. And women flock to him for that point. They know what they're getting into. It's not like they don't get it. And from the beginning, when he starts saying he wants this and he wants that, they could have walked away, but they didn't. They liked his power. And if they wanted him to use his power to benefit them, but then in return, they had to do something to benefit him. Let's look at some of the things that I want to look at the Jane testimony. And because it's go over a few of them, because you can see that she's there for a reason. And most of the stuff she's saying is not a crime. Over the course of 2 days, she gave testimony, repeatedly described how he allegedly leveraged his financial power to ensure she did his bidding, which included having sex with escort despite her wishes. But yet later on in a lot of testimony, she'll say, like, when she didn't want to do it, he said, okay, whatever. He didn't force her. So I don't understand despite her wishes. She might have said, I really don't want to do it. And he said, well, come on, why don't you? And then she did. That's not being really against her wishes. She just didn't make a big issue of it. Enough of an issue that he took it into consideration. She's backed down and said, okay, I'll do it. Let's see what she says here. She testified that Combs would run out of drugs various times during their hotel nights, known as freak-offs, often relying on security assistants or a butler to resupply. And that would be a RICO thing. She recalls transporting ecstasy for him. That would be a RICO thing. Saying she, quote, didn't feel safe delivering drug-filled packages for Combs in her checked luggage. Well, then you shouldn't have done it. You broke the law. You carrying illegal drugs. You took a plane. You should be in jail. I'm okay with she should be charged. Oh, but she did it for him? Well, people in the mafia have a lot of people who work for them. So they say, okay, we got a hit on this guy. You go out there and kill him. And after you kill him, do you get to say, well, I was told to do it, so therefore I'm not guilty of anything? No, he's guilty of the RICO part of it. She's guilty of committing a crime. I don't feel sorry for her. All right. She also describes how he would recruit escorts and at one point found one entertainer, they put quotes around entertainer, from watching pornography. And it's a porn star, okay, who was paid up to $4,000 to have sex with Jane as Combs looked on. Okay, again, we're talking about prostitution. She testified that Combs would direct her to get explicit photos of the men. So he's asking, hey, take some pictures. And she goes and takes some pictures. Again, she did it of her own free will. Then let's see. That's what else we find out. She supposedly did. As the day was coming to a close, Jane dropped a bombshell that drew gasps in the overflow room. When asked where she currently lives, she told prosecutor, it's the same home from when Combs was sending her $10,000 each month as part of their, quote, love contract. That's called being a mistress. Okay, basically you're a mistress. $10,000 to live someplace. Okay. Mm-hmm. And how is she paying her rent now? They asked. And she goes, oh, yeah, he's still paying it. Oh, and then he paid for her veneers because she didn't like her teeth. All right. Let's see. On the stand, she recalled an alleged exchange in which Combs leveraged his power over her finances. Leveraged his power. Courtroom heard a text conversation in which Combs asked her if they were, quote, getting freaky tonight. When she responded, of course, I just haven't seen you. He replied, well, get over here. Get over it, please. Because apparently he's been, steps out on her, as other women and stuff. She gets upset because she wants a true relationship with him, which the same thing. Cassie said the same thing. The other people said the same thing. They wanted a real relationship with a guy who has you have sex with other men. Okay. He says, well, get over it, please. Look at the roof over your head and that pretty smile. I don't want to do anything if that's still an issue. Okay. So he's basically saying to her, look, I'm giving you $10,000 a month to live. I'm paying for your stuff that you need fixed. I'm doing all these nice things for you. Well, if you're not interested in doing what I want, well, then let's call it a day. He didn't force her. He just said, let's just end this. Well, apparently that wasn't what she wanted to do, so she kept going. All right. Another time, he threatened to revoke her allowance when she reneged on her offer to do an all-star party, a night with 3 or 4 other men, because her period started early. He's going to revoke her allowance. She sent photo evidence she was menstruating, and he responded by saying he was mad and texted her to don't ask for money again. I wanted to prove to them that I really wasn't available. I'm not a liar, a cheater, or a sex robot. Apparently, pretty much, well, you may not be a liar or cheater, but apparently you like being a sex robot because you do it all the time, over and over and over again, whatever he tells you to do. And so I guess he got this party together and paid the money, and their men are there, and she doesn't want to show up. So anyway, again, he wants to take away her allowance. Well, you're in a relationship with him and you have 2 choices. You leave the relationship, which he's not stopping you from doing, or you continue prostituting yourself in that relationship. Have it your way. Um, then she said to another time, "You lied because you want to use me for the night. Anything outside of these hotels, I'm just a joke to you." So she's mad that he doesn't want to be, I guess, more of a boyfriend to her. No, yeah. Well, it's because you act like a prostitute, and that's what you get. After Jane and Combs' period of silence following her jealousy over his Turks and Caicos trip with another woman, he offered a makeup trip for her birthday to the islands. So he's with somebody else, so they have on a break. I don't know if they were on the break before or on a break after, but they're on a break. She met him in Miami and was dismayed to see his text asking her to, quote, plan a night of debauchery and fun, then straight to the airport. So he wants, before they go to the islands, to have his usual kind of sex. And she keeps doing the usual kind of sex with him. And I mean usual, but with quotes around it, right? It is kind of usual. And then she said, no, I just want us. She didn't want to do it. Though she was under the impression there would be no other men on the trip. That's your impression. Okay, fine. That's an impression. That's not a fact. Combs allegedly turned on her while they were watching porn and asked if she wanted to invite one of the sex workers they've hired before. She agreed, only because I became accustomed to the rhythm of things and wanted to make them happy. You agreed. Too damn bad. Once Combs and Jane had arrived in Turks and Caicos, she said he announced 2 days in that one of their usual sex workers was being arrived. Oh, she's mad. So they got a couple days of just the two of them. And then he brought a sex worker in. We had another one of those long nights. We had sex for 24 hours. And when they returned to the villa, Combs still wanted more, according to Jane. So they invited the sex worker over for what she called a fourth round. But it was really painful for Jane because I was extremely sore at that point. Well, that's why it tries to use all that baby oil on you. That's what the baby oil is for. Well, at least partly what it's for. Anyway, I'm not going to get into other sexual details. Again, she can say no. She's willingly doing it. She has not been kidnapped. She's not been forced. Just because she wants to stay with him and he wants to have sex, he likes orgies. Well, that's what you do to be with him. And if you don't want to have orgies, don't be with him. Okay, so Combs tried to get her to continue using lubrication on her, but when he made a crass comment about how she couldn't continue, Jane got angry and threw the bracelet he gifted her at the wall. Then she stormed off to cry. Jane said he followed her yelling, "Are you crazy? You made me look bad in front of Paul." And he instructed her to apologize to the sex worker, which she did over text. And then she said here that testified near the end of the relationship, he said he wasn't aware of how she was feeling about how the relationship had devolved. Well, he's obviously a highly narcissistic human being. Okay, he probably doesn't have a great deal of concern for other people's feelings. But so he said he didn't realize that she was that bummed out, right? At first she believed him, but then she went through the notes application on her phone. She used it as a journal, telling him how she felt bad about hotel nights. "I see what I'm turning into in your eyes. I need a breather and a break from you. This doesn't make me feel good at all." So she doesn't like their relationship and the way their relationship is played out. Okay, that's fine. So what? So I felt mistreated. He gave other women quality time, and he took other women on trips and maybe didn't have them do the sex stuff. "It broke my heart because I just finished spending my birthday with all these guys having sex with me for him to make a romantic gesture towards someone else." She's jealous. And so at the end of their exchange, he wrote, "Let's just not do anything anymore. Okay, I'm tired of you throwing sex in my face. Let's just be friends." And now she's like, "What? You're breaking up with me?" I've got to stop there. So this is the problem. He wasn't holding her into the relationship. He wasn't forcing her. He said, "Why don't we just kill the whole sex thing and we'll just be friends and let it go." And she, of course, didn't want that. Why? Because either she's got some sick obsession with him, or she thinks she's in love with him, or she likes the money coming in, or she really doesn't mind the sex stuff. I don't know. And I don't really care. So My opinion is if you got woman after woman who willingly goes for years having this kind of a relationship with him, that's their bad choice. That's it. And over again, she's like, I didn't realize this. I didn't realize. Yes, you did. You realized it, but you're trying to backtrack and saying, I couldn't help these choices I made. I was like, bamboozled into them by his power and, whatever. It's, you know, people try to act like these women have no agency in a world that says women have the right to make choices, even choices. The people who are real pro prostitution, women have the right to be out there prostituting themselves. They have the right to do sex films. They have the right to have 1,000 men a night. As one woman has claimed she's done, which I still can't even figure out how that's even possible. Just time wasting. But they all have this right. Well, if they have the right to do all that, they have the right to choose to be with Diddy and do what Diddy wants and to have the type of sex Diddy would like to do. And they do it over and over and over and over again. And meanwhile, they get to be the girlfriend or wife of a famous person and get all the luxury stuff that comes with it. That's a choice. And at some point you thought it was a good choice, but maybe it wasn't a good choice. Maybe it was a bad choice because, well, in my opinion, it was a horrible choice. But I'm not here to say what you have the right to do as an adult. Now, if you're an underage person, that's a whole another matter. But if you're an adult over 18 years of age, you get to choose what you want to do. And as far as I can see, there are some actual acts of criminality that these women participated in. They broke the law, and they haven't paid for that. But they all broke the law for him, so therefore it'll turn RICO. That's how they're working the case, because they would like to take this guy down. And I'm not saying I don't have a problem with him being taken down, because I don't have a problem with him having the orgies and having his women do what he wants his women to do, because that's an adult choice. But when you cross the line into prostitution, transport of prostitutes, illicit drugs, having people carry illicit drugs for you, illegal weapons, and these other things, then you go down because you are a criminal and you will go to prison for many, many years. Too bad. All right, so those are my thoughts on this case. And I'll probably not say anything more till the end of the trial when the actual jury comes in and comes up with their determination. And we shall see whether he is found guilty or not, or how many of the counts he's found guilty on. So anyway, thank you for being here. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe and check my playlist for the many different things I talk about. And see you at the end of the trial. Bye.